Good morning, everyone, and it's another great day here in Manatee County. I'd like to call to order the Board of County Commissioners budget work session for Monday, June 17th to order. And first off, I'd like to make an announcement. It's our Chief of Staff, Andy Butterfield's birthday today. So he wishes. And as we do every day here in Manatee County, we start every meeting by honoring God and our great nation. And this morning, we have Reverend Brock Patterson from the Lombok Key Island Chapel to do the invocation, and for the pledge will be retired Navy Captain and Chief of Staff, Andy Butterfield. So everyone could please rise and remain standing.
Gracious and Heavenly God, it is indeed great to be alive today, to be able to serve you, Lord, in the way that you have built and so carefully crafted each and every one of us. Lord, all of those who are gathered here, all of those decision makers, Lord, you have given them great skills, great experience. You have watched over them and you have guided them to this point. Lord, you know the work in front of them. You know the work in front of all of us. And Lord, you will bless it. So just help us, Lord, guide us in all things, open our hearts, open our minds so that we can hear one another and that we can respond in the manner that you have created us to respond. Lord, I ask your blessings upon all of those gathered here, upon their families, upon their loved ones. Lord, and upon all of those who are busy at work today doing their things, the men and women in the police departments and fire department, and emergency services and sanitation services. Lots of people are working today so that we can be here together to help make decisions, Lord, for your world. We give you great thanks again, and we ask that you bless us in all that we do. It's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. And thank you, Chief of Staff Butterfield. Hope everybody had a great Father's Day weekend. It was exhausting, but it was a great weekend. But right now, I'll turn it over to our county administrator to move us forward on the budget presentation. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Chair and the board. We're here to hear the constitutional officers' budget decision units, and after that, we're going to roll right into a few more other departments, hopefully before lunch. With that said, we'll turn it over to Madam CFO, Sheila McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Madam County Attorney and citizens of Manatee County and the folks in the audience as well. Today we are going to be presenting Sheila McLean, CFO, Manatee County. Today we are going to be presenting the Constitutional Officers and Judicial Programs FY25 recommended budget. To give you a little bit of a background on the budgets and why is the consideration of the county in funding all these programs. This is a requirement of Florida Statute 29.008 that requires all the county, that's the major authority, to fund constitutional officers, judicial programs, and anything associated with the court programs as it relates to facilities and all that, as we call support cost. The constitutional officers comprise of the clerk of the circuit court, the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, the property appraiser, supervisor of elections, and the tax collector. Today, we will hear the presentation of the clerk of the court. And then the tax collector is not present. His budget flows a little bit different. And the other three constitutional officers, although they are placed in the recommended budget as their base budget, same as last year, the adjustments to their budget will not be presented until the August 1st budget reconciliation. As for the judicial programs, the same applies. Article 5 in Chapter 29008 allows them to receive funding from the county as it relates to their technology as well to run their programs to the extent it's reasonable. Today's presentation will include all four of them, court administration, followed by the state attorney, followed by the public defender and the guardian ad litem. How much of the budget? It's comprised of all of them. It's a total of $239 million what we fund for the court systems, constitutional and judicial programs. Of course, we know that 82.6% of this total 239 is the sheriff, followed by the tax collector. The tax collector is, like I had explained before, is their budget is based on a formula that actually it's by Florida statute provided, and it's totally based on the assessed values and ad valorem property taxes itemized. That percentage of collections makes their budget into all the tax-supported funds. Furthermore, the constitutional officers four of the constitutional officers receive what we call support cost. Support cost is, as the Florida statute states, we provide all the funding for their facilities, whether it's facilities that the county owns and they are housed in, or any leases to provide any of their satellite offices all around the county to be able to provide their services. A total of $9.2 million is provided, and as well is related to the insurance policies that are housed inside for these facilities. Once again, the sheriff's facility support costs are the largest at 85.5%, is because they are the one that covers the vast area of the Manatee County unincorporated side. From now on, I would like to introduce you Danielle Fraser. She will be my moderator for today, while I am sitting right next to her here, assisting. And so with you, Danielle Fraser.
Good morning, County Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Madam Attorney, Mr. Administrator, and Administration. Welcome today, and as Sheila mentioned, my role is the moderator. I will be briefly summarizing the fiscal year 25 recommended budget for each constitutional office and judicial program, as well as introduce the staff who will be here today to present. As you see, this is the order of that will be presented today. Sheila already mentioned the property appraiser is not here today. He will be here along with the sheriff and supervisor of elections on the August 1st work session to present the budget. Our first constitutional office is the Circuit Court. Their fiscal year 25 recommended budget is approximately $8.7 million. This represents a decrease of almost $913,000. The decrease represents an offset of the new requests are right here on the bottom, plus the reduction of the budget of approximately $1.4 million for the historical resources, which will be allocated to the Sports and Leisure Department in fiscal year 25. I would now like to introduce Neil Unruh, Chief Clerk of Finance, and Kim Wilder, Finance Director of the Circuit Court.
And while they are approaching, I would like to make a reference on this comment that this budget that is being moved to the Sports and Leisure is for the continuation of the same programs that are housed at the historical resources.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, commissioners. Morning, county administrator and staff. Morning, Sheila. Morning, citizens. We're going to concentrate strictly on the new positions that were requested and the market adjustment that we had in our proposed budget, and not belabor any other points. We asked for 4 additional positions this year. Those included an accounts payable clerk. We continue to see a rise in our bills and purchasing card purchases. So in order to continue to process those bills in a timely manner and continue to scan, index, process those invoices, receiving reports, and so on, we feel that this warrants an extra position. The P card purchasing, just kind of for your information, monthly average of P card expenditures in fiscal year 22 was $620,000. That has gone up to $958,000 during this current year. So the way the county spends money has changed, and we need to adapt and allocate the resources that we have and request that additional position to cover those kinds of things. The county population, again, as everybody knows, has increased quite a bit over time, and we have not grown that much in terms of board positions that have been asked to be funded. So an accounts payable clerk would cost $72,541 of board funding. In addition, we would like to see a payroll clerk. Clerk's office has for years maintained the same number of staff. Those have been 3 staff members and 1 supervisor across the payroll that we process, which is the clerk's office, the county, the MPO, the port, and the supervisor of elections. The county's growth has increased those number of employees and the complexity as we grow and get into union contracts and other things. The complexity of that payroll has increased over time. Let's see, we have approximately in 23, the county had 2,288 employees. Compared to in 2020, they only had 2,053. So an increase of over 200 employees just in the last 3 or 4 years. Whereas our clerk's office has not increased those employees over payroll at all to cover those kinds of things. We again continue to review file uploads from the county to ensure they're free from errors and work with HR to make sure that we're producing and decreasing time of processes as normal. So payroll clerk cost for the board would be $64,965. We additionally would request a treasury management clerk. Our treasury management department handles all the cash receipting as well as the investments of the board. The growth in the county has led to a lot more internal cash receipts, returns, chargeback, and merchant service fees from the various county departments. This would assist in the recording and posting of all those items on to manage the daily cash flow that we do for the county. And finally, our 4th position request is a public information office specialist. We only have 1 at the clerk's office right now, and we need an additional 1 that would handle all those media relations, social media management, and content creation, just to name a few of those items. The board position, the board cost for that is only $36,443 as they are split among other positions with the state budget as well. And finally, what isn't highlighted on there, it's just a few rows up, is a market adjustment to our pay rate, our pay plan. The cost for this is $126,555. We're finding that our pay plan right now is not adequate for the recruiting of individuals into our entry-level positions and the retention of our staff. This market adjustment will take our beginning pay up to $18 an hour from $15.60 an hour, and will hopefully alleviate lots of vacancies in our agency and be able to retain employees as we go through. We've fallen behind most of our competition in that area, including here across the street, as well as fellow clerks' offices and other constitutionals who are upwards around $20 an hour. We've done the clerks' offices around the state have done some studies, and a living wage is around $21.50. And so we're trying to move our pay plan in that direction, not fully there, but trying to move it in that direction. With that, I'll entertain any questions that you guys might have for us today.
Commissioner Van Ostenbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Neil, you have 4 additional positions above the ones in red. Are you no longer asking for those?
We are not asking for those in particular at this point, no.
Well, this is your point. This is your
Well,
opportunity.
the Inspector General positions, we have a vacancy right now, and We are filling that role, as well as we have a part-timer that is going to full-time. So the Inspector General positions we feel is going to be adequate. The accounts payable position, we got one last year, and then we are asking for the one again this year.
Okay, so you're not asking for the 4 positions that are not highlighted?
No, we are not. We are
Okay.
only asking for those that are highlighted.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, so last year you asked for 4 positions, correct? And you got 2?
Correct.
Is that,
Correct. We
I
have
remember
one, we got one Inspector General and one accounts payable.
all right, so last year you asked for 2 accounts payable based upon the accounts that needed to be paid, and
Correct.
we gave you 1. So basically now you're trying to just catch up on the request from last year. So
We
basically,
are continuing to see the need for additional accounts payable clerks to process the bills, yes.
all right, so you did it with effectively short staff this past year. You managed to do it there. So this is in anticipation. You managed to kind of squeeze a little bit and get it done with 1 person less. And now you're saying that you've kind of reached the limit of what you can squeeze staff to do.
We believe that is true, yes.
Okay. So at the end of the, and the 10% market adjustment, I mean, we're seeing that everywhere. We're going to have other constitutional officers come with the same thing. We have people in our county at sea. I mean, the $126,000, how many employees are we talking about?
That is going to be our employees that are in pay grades 1 through 8. So we're not even
Is that-
taking our full staff and
I
doing
don't
that.
know your payroll. Is that 1 person or is that 100 people? What is that? Roughly, I don't need to.
Probably about half of our staff, so 100 to 120.
All right, so 100 to 120 people for $126,000. I mean, at the end of the day, but first off, $15 an hour. My son makes more than that, and he makes sushi bowls. So I mean, that one just seems like a no-brainer. I mean, because it's going to cost us, if we have to replace 5 of those positions, just the headhunter cost and the retraining cost and everything is going to end up costing more than $126,000 if we can retain 100 people for $126,000. That one, to me, I don't understand why that's not getting approved. The other ones, I mean, you guys are pretty lean over there, and you're forward-facing in a lot of cases, not just forward-facing to the public, but forward-facing to the staff in this building.
Correct.
And to your point, we've increased staff by over 10% in the past few years, and you're still working off the same number of people. And part of the incentive for our staff is that they get paid in a timely manner, that they get their expenses reimbursed, that they get their payroll correct and on a timely manner. So you're providing us a service as a benefit to our HR and our staff, not just to the public coming over there to get passports and pay their bills and so forth. These don't seem like tough requests to me. That I mean, we're going to see budgets that are multiple times higher than these requests that we're slashing over here. I think this budget should have been presented better. You should just taken out the historical resource thing altogether because it is an increase. I think it's playing games a little with numbers, but nonetheless, it's not a dramatic increase. I don't have a problem with these requests because we've made you be lean in the past year, and you've managed to do it, and you didn't complain about it. Your staff got together and did what they needed to do, and at some point in time, we need to acknowledge our population has grown by 10%, our staff has grown by 10%. At some point, we need your staff to grow commensurate, especially if we're currently underpaying people. It seems like we're going in opposite directions. You're not working with less people, but paying them more, so you get people willing to work hard. You're underpaying people and then telling them to work more. We're going to start losing people, and then our staff's not going to get paid properly, and our public's not going to get proper service at the clerk. I don't have a problem with any of these requests, honestly. Are you going to get all of them? Doubtful. I hope you get the 10% market adjustment increase. I'll pull that because that just seems like a no-brainer considering how many people it affects for such a nominal amount of money. I think you need the accounts payable because we already cut you by 1 last year, so you patiently waited another year just to catch up to last year's number. So I'll pull that one. I'm on board with the others, but I'll leave that to other people to make a decision. But I don't see a problem with these. I think these are nominal costs. The PIO specialists, we're only paying a third of it. So that seems like a pretty reasonable thing if it allows you to unlock the other 2/3 from other sources. I think we're getting good bang for a buck on that one.
Any other questions for Neil in the clerk's office?
I don't have a question, but I will second the poll on the market adjustment.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Commissioner Ballard. All right. Anything else? I guess we're good to go.
If not, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
So the Manatee County Sheriff's Office Supervisor of Elections and Property Appraiser, in the current fiscal year 25 recommended budget, their budgets remain stagnant, and all three will ask, their new asks will be brought into the budget when they will be here, to present their asks on August 1st. Small little tidbit. So the Supervisor of Elections, if you could see their fiscal year 25 recommended budget, there is a slight decrease. That is due to ASM program changes, which is outside of their control. Just wanted to point that out. Next slide. Up next is our court administration budget. On the very bottom of the slide, the judicial programs book, which is on mymanatee.org. If anyone following along would like to look at their decision units, page 15 would represent the court administration. So the fiscal year 25 recommended budget is approximately $1.6 million, which represents an increase of almost $65,000. The increase is a increase to the personnel of $106,000 and a decrease to operations of close to $42,000. And just a reminder, the truancy court is no longer part of the court administration programs effective fiscal year 24. I would like to present Chief Judge Diana Moreland of the 12th Judicial Court of Florida and Kimberly Miller, Court Administrator. I believe they have their own slides, correct? Okay. Come on down.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for having us, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners, and other persons from the public. First, I'd like to take the pleasure of introducing who we are speaking about today. Primarily, we're talking about 15 judges that serve you here in Manatee County particularly. That's made up of 4 county judges and 11 circuit judges serving in 6 different divisions. In addition, throughout the circuit, we have approximately 200 support staff that have to work on a continual basis to support the needs of this judicial circuit. From this point, I'm going to defer briefly to the trial court administrator who does all the original budgeting that has to be okayed by the chief judges with consult with the senior administrative judges throughout our circuit. And this is Kim Miller.
Good morning. You can go back one slide if you don't mind real quick. I thought it was interesting just to point out that we support most of the space in the Judicial Center. We have 19 courtrooms, 5 hearing rooms, and about 89 staff over there. And out of those 89 staff, 8 of them are funded by the county. As Sheila mentioned, 29.008 governs the county's responsibility to fund. Sometimes it's a little confusing to understand why you have to pay for things to support judges and state employees, but it's all statutory. The 3 areas that are in red are where our budget requests primarily focused on this year. So 29008 requires that the budget request be submitted by June 1st. However, Manatee County has a local resolution that requires that we submit our budget request by March 1st, which is what we did. We meet with, it requires the chief judge to meet with the state attorney, the public defender, the clerk, and the Office of Regional Counsel, and we talk about local requirements, and we submit one budget request on behalf of everybody. Next, please. Thank you. We met with Sheila and her team back in April. The proposed budget that they recommended included everything that we asked for, except for funding for an ongoing IT project that we have going on. That's the area highlighted in yellow there. Last year, we began a 5-year project upgrading technology in our courtrooms. But the 210 that we had requested for this year wasn't included, and we think it was just a misunderstanding on how our request was submitted. The next slide shows before and after of some of the work that we've done in the courtrooms. We've done the fourth floor, 3 courtrooms there. We still had original technology, drop-down slide. The projector was hanging from the ceiling. There's a mobile cart on the left. On the right, you can see that we have digital screens now. Digital screen behind the witness box. There's one at the witness box. There's one just for jurors, one on each attorney table. We have document cameras on each attorney table now, and we added additional microphones throughout the courtroom. This is a little summary of everything. This is what $210,000 bought for 3 courtrooms. And we were able to eliminate some of the older technology, as it shows. This is a multi-year project, however, and so we had requested the $210,000 to be part of a 5-year project. We think it just got dropped when the budget got carried over because it was considered a non-recurring because it had only a 5-year span on it. The other asks that we had for this budget year included some $14,000 for some cybersecurity upgrades that we want to do. And then $90,000 was to do some upgrades to our multipurpose room, which is used by all of our judicial partners, and a conference room. And it would be similar to the upgrades that you have like in this room. This isn't an ask for this year. This is just kind of this may be coming down the road. Our Court Technology Committee made a recommendation to consider developing what would be called an in-house judicial viewer. Right now, we are a 3-county circuit. We have 2 different types of viewers, one in DeSoto and Manatee, a different one in Sarasota. They kind of sit on top of the clerk's case information system, but it allows the judges to look up cases electronically, file orders electronically, right through the portal to the clerk's offices, but they're different, and they have different functionalities. The recommendation statewide is that each circuit have 1 per circuit. It's expensive, though. It's not cheap. We won't. That's why we're saying this could be coming, but the discussion was to possibly develop one in-house. So it's not our ask for this year, but it could be coming next year. One of the positions that we had requested is an alternative sanctions coordinator. This is listed in 29.008. We had asked for this position several years ago. It was not funded back then. Delinquency cases had kind of dropped, so we never asked for it again. Delinquency cases, though, have increased steadily for the past several years. We now, in fact, no longer have a judge that does part-time delinquency and part-time dependency. This judge is now doing delinquency on a full-time basis. So this position would actually work with the juvenile judge and in the juvenile court system to help kind of like a case manager for all of those juvenile delinquency cases. And the recommendation was made, I believe, to fund this position. We requested a little bit of additional money for operating expense in our drug court. We have a fully functional drug testing lab. Thought it was interesting to share that we did over 16,000 drug tests last year, and there's a list of all the different organizations that we also test for. We had 164 admissions to our treatment program last year, 81 graduates, which is about right where you should be because it's a 12 to 18-month program. Drug court also generates revenue, though. So we do testing for all these other agencies, but we charge everybody for the testing that we do. In the 5 years, we've been collecting about average about $50,000 a year, but we've collected $254,000. So I wanted to point out that our ask for additional revenue for drug testing, we do collect money. We do use that to offset costs, but we still need a little bit more. The cost of reagents has just gone up. We also have 2 other county-funded positions. One of them is a guardianship monitor. Judge Moreland currently sits in the probate and guardianship bench, and she utilizes this position every day. So I'm going to have her speak about it.
One, I want to thank the county commission for having the foresight to afford me the opportunity to have a guardianship monitor. Just to explain to you what the guardianship monitor does, She actually is my boots on the street for contact on the benefit of the wards. To give you a few ideas of the numbers that she does, she has currently 70 open cases, and 4 still are around from 2019. She serves 122 wards in from January to 2023 to date, and she's physically visited 127. We have had such a good working relationship, Ms. Carmen Ruiz and I, that there's 2 things that we've initiated in this last year alone. She has her own docket now. There she can pick the cases where I have to have concerns that the safety of my ward is at stake. So she has unfettered access to hearings that we set together and go over the cases and decide these ones need our eyes. In addition, as a result of her boots on the street, she has located wards that have been secreted out of the county and out of state on numerous occasions. She has assisted me in finding and recovering assets of the wards that have been misappropriated by the guardians, as well as other family members, and recaptured those funds. She has worked as a liaison with the Department of Children and Family Services, where we had concerns that a case or a caregiver was actually a danger to our own ward, and made the reports and or followed reports. And finally, she has been a liaison to the sheriff's office or law enforcement in other states, also making sure that the safety of our wards are protected. Remember, our wards are either people that have been developmentally disabled determined or totally incapacitated or limited capacity. They need our coverage, and she provides that. And I just can't express how much she is valued by myself, and thank you for the foresight of allowing us to have the guardianship monitor.
We have one other county-funded position, and she's the Citizen Dispute Settlement Coordinator. She works in our mediation department. We have a couple different things that she handles, but interestingly enough, one employee handles over 1,600 referrals to mediation, and over 1,400 cases were mediated by her and all of the volunteers and employees that we utilize to do those. So these are just to give you a little idea of what's going on over there and what you're helping to pay for across the street, and we appreciate it very much. So we're both open to any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Ballard.
I have a couple questions about the potential technology upgrades. So I know that, once 2020 came around, the hybrid and remote technology became extremely, extremely important very quickly, and the court system was not really prepared for that remote technology when we needed it the most. What percentage of the of hearings or judges are utilizing hybrid or remote technologies still today?
It's division dependent. Of course, in probate guardianship, we're probably 85 to 90% still doing Zoom type hearings, remote hybrid hearings. In civil, I would say it's probably more around 70% that we're still having Zoom hearings previous to pre-trial hearings. Criminal, fewer, but because of the way the legislature just made a rule change and the Supreme Court adopted same, we're probably going to have that even go up. Attorneys now can make a request to appear via Zoom for any hearing less than 30 minutes. So we are going to anticipate that we're going to have more demands for that, especially from attorneys out of state. Overall, I'd say if you were averaging, it's about 60% of our hearings are still being conducted in some type of Zoom hybrid, whether it's witnesses appearing at the hearings, whether it's having the attorneys appear for ministerial functions, and even for evidentiary hearings.
Okay, I'm gonna request to pull the IT upgrades.
I second.
Commissioner, can I make a comment on it? And I just want to be very specific because they already have for this. They requested $90,000 for IT upgrades. What they need is
Go ahead.
It's the additional $210,000 that was missed communication. They need the full $300,000. So are you flagging the entire?
What I was intending to flag was specifically the physical infrastructure upgrades that will allow them to conduct remote hearings more effectively within the courtroom. So I think it's the 210,000.
Okay.
I want to pull it. Okay. Okay, understood.
Any other questions?
Any other questions of Judge Moreland?
Yes, sir.
No, I said any other questions.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, our state attorney is up next. Their fiscal year 25 recommended budget is a little over $1 million, which is an increase of $306,000. I would like to explain this slide really quickly. The top portion is an overview, and I want to highlight there is an unfunded total of almost $243,000, and then the bottom portion is the detail of the salaries. And just as a reminder, the state attorney's salaries are reimbursable. And then on the next slide is details of their operating expenses. So at this time, Ed Browski, State Attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair Ron and fellow commissioners, County Administrator, and Madam County Attorney. Congratulations to you. So I guess I'm here, really, I wanted to just focus on one issue that we were hoping to bring to your attention during this budget session, and that is we had a request that is titled on the slide as a specialty VOP ASA and a specialty VOP legal assistant. What we were requesting is about 6 years ago in Sarasota County, we received funding for a dedicated prosecutor to handle early resolution court to help with jail population. At the time, Sarasota County continues to have a jail population issue. We heard at the last public safety meeting here in Manatee County that there's some construction going on at the Manatee County Jail, but they're close to operational capacity. They're about 100 from operational capacity here at the Manatee County Jail. And we think that this is a position that could be brought to Manatee County similarly as it's been brought to Sarasota County. There, over the last 6 years, we've had the position funded there for an individual who handles all of the felony violation of probations and quickly works to try to resolve those cases. And then the court has a special court hearing, once a week in Sarasota County, as they do here in Manatee County, to handle and address violation of probation cases at an early resolution docket, which we think adding that position here would be very efficient to helping expedite those cases, allowing the prosecutor to have that meaningful dialogue with defense attorneys during the week to help resolve those cases at the early resolution docket. One of the additional duties that we also gave to the attorney in Sarasota that we haven't been able to do here because we don't have the position is this past legislative session, the Florida legislature passed the pretrial detention statute. And the way that it's been set up here is we have a pretrial detention hearing on those that are charged with first-degree felony and life felony cases every single week. And there the court has a hearing to determine whether those individuals will be held in the Manatee County Jail under pretrial detention. And we have had significant number of hearings on very serious cases. And the way it works right now is any day of the week that someone's arrested on a first-degree felony or a life felony, they're going to be bound over to Friday court for a pretrial detention hearing. And in some cases, we've had very serious cases where there's an individual arrested, on a Wednesday or on a Thursday, and we're having to facilitate and get the hearing ready for Friday for the pretrial detention hearing before the court. And so what we were able to do in Sarasota County with that early resolution position, we also have that attorney as the dedicated attorney to handle those early resolution courts. That is something that we have not been able to do here, and we have to use a number of different attorneys to multitask to be able to cover the early resolution docket and the pretrial detention hearings. And we think that there would be some significant efficiencies if we were able to receive funding for that position as we are in Sarasota County. So that is an item that I've spoken to the administrator about, and we've spoken to Ms. McLean, and I've had an occasion to speak to, I think, all of you, most of you commissioners, regarding that request. So I hope that that's something that you'd consider. I think that would, it does certainly enhance public safety in our community. We work strongly hand in hand with our law enforcement agencies to enhance the public safety in this community. I think that's what makes Manatee County, the wonderful gem that it is. And we want to do everything to be strong partners with our law enforcement agencies to make sure that we're keeping the right people in jail. And I think that this would be a positive step in that direction. So I'll open it up if there's any questions.
Yes, sir, thank you. Real quick, the position you're asking for, what's their caseload like down in Sarasota right now? I mean, I know we can't compare counties, but just a caseload.
Well, typically, during a typical week, I guess it would not be, I'd say that they have anywhere between 50 and 100 cases that they could hear. But then on the pretrial detention, I mean, some weeks they've had, as many as 10 cases that are being heard at a pretrial detention hearing on a Friday.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Cruz.
Sarasota, you said it's been doing it for 6 years?
Yes.
So, is there any metrics about, you said part of the reason behind it in Sarasota was because of their overcapacity at their jail. Do you have any metrics, or do they have any metrics provided to you about how that's been able to alleviate that? I mean, it costs us hundreds of dollars a day to keep people in jails.
Right. And I think that was, one of the things that happened, a few years ago, probably at least 6 years ago. They formed a committee to really come up with some innovative ways to identify tools and measures that could be put into place to help with jail population. I mean, their operational capacity in Sarasota County is about 836, and they sit over 1,000. They, traditionally have been sitting over 1,000 inmates that are currently in the jail over there, similarly to the Manatee County Jail. And only recently we've begun to hear with pretrial detention and these other issues that the jail population is increasing here in Manatee County as well. But so, yeah, metrics are run. They run the numbers every week, and we look at the numbers of all the detainees, and we look at the violation of probation cases, and we do see that there's been a significant reduction by being able to, and that's, I think, why the courts hold early resolution courts in the first place, is to try to move those cases much more expeditiously and quickly through the process.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ballard.
And just so I can be clear about, what the issue that you're experiencing is. So we've got a new statute on the books in the state that requires a whole bunch of felonies, various crimes to be mandatory detention, and that was not previously the case. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so basically, these people are now coming into the jail and they're required to be detained, whereas some of them in the past would have been released.
Yes.
And so that's knocking our jail population up significantly.
It's certainly increasing, yes. It's increasing the workload on the jail, and certainly because now these are folks that do not have the right to bail while they await their case to be resolved. And it's also adding the additional responsibilities of the court to have those hearings and the prosecutors and defense attorneys to prepare for those hearings weekly.
And so this attorney would handle those initial detention hearings that are required to be held. And then in addition, they would handle these VOPs and hopefully figure out situations where some of those VOPs could have alternative sanctions rather than going back to jail?
Yes, that would be our anticipation.
Okay. And so are we doing polls right now, or are we doing polls at the end?
Yeah, you can do whatever you like.
Well, I'd like to poll that one.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the state attorney? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, commissioners, for everything you do for us.
I'm just trying to, every time we get a poll, understand what the poll is so that we correctly can show it. Just want to kind of like restate it. You're pulling the full 222,400 to be funded, or are you pulling which is the one that he actually discussed? The one that's in the budget that got unfunded was the multidisciplinary team task force is different than the one he was discussing, I believe.
Oh, so if that guy, Is the VOP attorney funded?
No. It was a request after we were done, so I politely asked them if they could bring it forward, and then we could discuss it, and then we could bring it back as a pool.
Okay, so I am not requesting funding for the MC team task force. I'm requesting funding for this VOP attorney that we were just discussing.
Correct, Mr. Attorney? Yes.
Back up, please.
I guess what we were requesting was the $222,400 that is for the specialty VOP ASA and the specialty VOP legal assistant.
No, I do want to give him that. It's, so if it's, so this is not recommended for funding. I would like it to be funded. I want to recommend funding.
We do some quirky thing where it says we're pulling it from the unfunded to the fund. It's backwards. It doesn't
Yeah,
make
so
sense.
I
agree with
think
you.
we're
It's
saying
bad.
pull in both contexts. Pull means let's do the opposite of what we're doing, I think. Yes.
Yeah, so when that's when sorry, Chairman.
No, so the request, it's not in the budget right now. Commissioner Ballard's requesting it to be in the budget right now.
Yes.
So it's different than pulling. So how do we,
Well,
you
he
move
came
forward
with a
with that?
last minute request and he is defending his case. So at this point, we could say pull it to add it into the funding. Even it's not in the budget, just bring it forward. And then we will come, but we need to get the direct order to bring it into the budget from the board.
So that's what Commissioner Ballard's ask is to bring that into the budget.
Yes, so
Yes,
I need
okay.
a commissioner and somebody to support it, another commissioner to support it.
Yeah, they already did. So we had
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Ballard and Commissioner Cruz supported that.
Perfect,
Okay.
okay.
Yes, Madam Attorney.
If I may, the pull process is described at the bottom of your agenda, and it references that if one commissioner desires to fund an item that is not recommended for funding, you pull the item and you have to get a second. So if it's not funded, if it's not recommended, the pull process means you're funding it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank you.
making muddy water muddier. Thank you, State Attorney.
Our public defender is next. Their fiscal year 25 recommended budget is an increase of $138,000 for a total budget of $966,000. Just like the other slides, the overview is on top, the detailed salaries, which are reimbursable, are on the bottom, and then the following slide is a detail of their operating expense. I would now like Larry Egger, the public defender, and Stephanie Santana, Finance Accounting Director. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Eager is the last name, just for clarification purposes. You've had to endure me for so many years. I figured one of these days we'll get it right. You can see the proposed budget, and actually the recommendations are higher than our original ask. We've been able to trim $80,000 off of the IT. Otherwise, our budget follows with, we were requesting a 3% increase in salaries. The recommendation was 7%. Obviously, we prefer the 7% because we do have an issue with retention and trying to maintain a high-quality staff so that we can be very productive in our presentation of our work. The 50% reimbursement for treatment court would be, that is drug court. And so we're asking for a match on that. Sarasota pays for the other 50%, so that was recommended by staff. And a 25% reimbursement for the treatment court attorney. I'm sorry, the first was for the coordinator, and the other is for the attorney, which is 25%. That was previously paid for by a grant, and that has subsequently gone by the wayside. So we are asking for funding so that we can continue to participate in drug court. I would say that almost the drug court coordinator, we're piggybacking on what was presented to you by court administration, as well as the state's attorney's office, as well as the sheriff's department, since we're kind of an equal partner in all of these things. And that's why for the request. I don't know if I should talk about anticipation of next year, because we're confronted with the exact same situation that the state is seeking as far as the early case resolution, which is the violation of probation. It has been in a quasi-fashion operating for the past 6 years in Manatee County, and we have staffed a person to do that. But and even in talking to our chief judge, they would love to have a judge that's full-time appointed to represent on that. So again, with these programs, with the reduction of the jail population, comes with the people who have to operate it. And the state's attorney's office, which is asking for it now. I don't know if Commissioner Ballard would like to add that so that we can address it today, but we're anticipating it next year. We also have the same issues that they were discussing with the pretrial detention matters, but before we come to the commission seeking funding for an attorney, we were waiting to see how it impacted our office, because right now we're covering it on a piecemeal basis. But again, to have somebody who is responsible for that, the objective is, as has been indicated, bringing down the jail population so that the funding for that can also be reduced. As I said, there's a reduction of $80,000 for the IT because we found funding elsewhere for it. So that's why there's even less money being asked. And have I concluded? Have I covered all issues? I will reluctantly turn it over to you all for any questions that you might have. And the difficult questions, I'm going to lateral to the budget director because.
Are there any questions of the public defender?
Oh, just think of, you can ask me anything.
Any questions for the public defender?
NBA playoffs, hockey, anything, nothing? Okay.
Winning lottery numbers. But all right, so thank you, sir.
That was almost too painless. You're making me nervous. All right, I'll leave it at that. Better to be thought a fool silent than to leave no doubt. I'm leaving no doubt.
Guardian ad litem, fiscal year 25 recommended budget is $312,000, which represents an increase of $19,000. This increase represents a salary compensation COLA. It's an increase in health insurance benefits of 1%, and a change of about $9,000 attributed to vacancies filled at a higher rate to meet market needs. And Claudia, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. I would also like to point out there's a decrease in operating expenses, which is related to ASM program changes. Now, if Tony Latortu, Circuit Director, would like to come up and discuss anything about her budget. Thanks.
Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, everyone. So this is our budget, and thank you. Our budget funds 4 positions, which 3 are filled, and we have 1 vacant attorney position, which we are trying to recruit someone for. And we did meet with Sheila and her team, and I don't have anything else to ask for the budget because only the construction project that we talked about, but I believe that's included in the budget. So that's all I have. So I think y'all save me for last because we're usually the easy ones. But so.
Anyone have any questions?
So,
Commissioner.
I mean, these are your requests. So you're happy with these base salaries? They're right where you want them?
They are.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank
I
you,
have
ma'am.
some materials if anyone wants to learn about what we do, who might not know. So I'll leave these with you maybe. in case. So, and my business card is in here as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So we have made it to our final program. Tax collector budget fiscal year 25 recommended. And it represents an increase of $1.3 million, totaling $18.5 million. As per Florida Statute 128, the tax collector follows the calculation based on assessed values. Therefore, this budget is assessed on all tax-supported funds that receive ad valorem. Now, this concludes our first half of the program. Are there any questions or are there any requests the commissioners would like to pull additional?
Commissioner Van Ostenbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I saved a few to pull. Sheila, do we do these all at once? I forget, or do we want me to go by each department? and I-
Each by each, yes. If you want to do the judicials now and you want to leave the one for the departments that you had from last Tuesday until we finish all the departments, which we're about
I
to
was
start in a
I was
little
gonna
bit.
do the judicials now. You want me to go by
Perfect.
each constitutional?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then I'll start out under clerk. I'd like to red flag the accounts payable clerk, the treasury clerk, the payroll clerk, and the PIO specialist. And then I would also like to red flag the 10%. I'd like the county administrator to sit down with the clerk's office and iron something out closer to the 7 that everybody else seems to be getting. I need a second for that.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir.
Just to make it clear, the 10%, you want it to be 7% to make it even with everybody?
I would just like the county attorney to sit down with them and work something out that's closer to that. Yes.
Yes.
It's county administrator, I apologize. I was looking at the county attorney when I said it, so I said county attorney, but I meant county administrator.
She's happy about that.
That
Yes.
10%
You're off
is-
the hook.
That 10% they're requesting is in addition to what they've already getting in increases in COLA and so forth.
Thank you for clarifying. So I'm looking for them to receive the COLA, right? The standard 7.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And if my seconder agrees with that or not.
I do.
Hold on. Okay.
That's all I had, sir.
All right, thank you. Any other questions regarding the constitutionals for CFO or anything? All right. Let's
I got
press
all-
on.
I got all the other polls that Commissioner Ballard did, so we're good.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, all my directors are next door. Do you mind if we just take a 5-minute break while we bring them over?
Yeah, take 10.
Okay.
Thank you. We're in recess be back at 10:10.
So welcome to part 2 of our decision unit review. We are going to continue our discussion from last Wednesday when you saw half of the departments present their fiscal year 25 recommended budgets. Just a reminder, the fiscal year 2025 recommended budget decision unit summary is currently published online at mymanatee.org. And today, we will be hearing from Development Services, Human Resources, Property Management, Public Safety, and Public Works. Utilities will be here on June 19th on Wednesday to present their fiscal year 25 recommended budget. Before we begin with the departments, we are going to continue with our other county-funded programs. And the other county programs are behind me on the screen, totaling $56 million. Our CFO, Sheila McLean, Lee DiPaolo, and Jody Fisk will be presenting their respective programs. Turn it over to Sheila McLean.
Thank you, Daniel. Back to me. So we have talked about outside of the departments, there's a certain kind of programs that are ran independently, only because we want to, for transparency purposes, we want to show the budget surfacing in its unique way. However, some of these programs are what we call county-wide, and some of these programs are administrated by some departments. And in some instances, it's a partnership. Like, for example, the healthcare fund, there's a little bit of pieces in the human services side, but then the other major piece, which is the LEAP funding, is the healthcare under public safety. Starting with the economic development programs at starting at $9.2 million. This one is comprised of 5 community redevelopment agencies that the county funds. We have an interlocal agreement with the city of Palmetto, the city of Bradenton, and the city of Bradenton Beach. And based on their, it's a formula-based for a certified assessment role where they get a tax increment valuation based on the assessed values in the area that they are on their boundaries. So these are the budgets. Like I stated, this is all in relation to any calculation based on the assessed values. So for this year, for the Central Community Redevelopment Agencies, there's $56,000 recommended, or the 14th Street CRA, which is now called the Tamiami Trail Community Redevelopment Agency, it's $732,000. Bradenton Beach at $846,000. Bradenton Downtown Community Redevelopment Agency at $3.4, and then the Palmetto Downtown at $3.3 million. The courts and the judicial programs, even though I'm reiterating these again, the ones that I'm going to be focusing because we just spoke about the first 4, it's the Bar Association and Legal Aid, as per also Florida Statute 29.08, where it states that we're supposed to fund some of the court services. Legal Aid is one of them. We have 2 vendors right now, the Legal Aid of Minnesota and Gulf Coast at Legal Services. These are their corresponding budgets, which were increased from fiscal year 23. And then finally, the court cost judicial center. So same statute establishes that all the facilities that are owned by the county and are provided to house the judicial systems are our responsibility as a whole. So the $1.7 million is to take care of all the facilities of the judicial system and the utilities, insurance, all of that that is associated with that. This other community services program, general government, is the, I moved too fast. This program is the one that we call countywide. The countywide helps to support initiatives and funding benefits to the employees and so forth that it's not It's not particularly a department's role, it's more the county administration as a whole. That's why we place those in a general government program countywide. In those, you're gonna see initiatives such as things that we have to absolutely fund, which are the Value Adjustment Board Special Magistrate, our lobbying consultant, economic development efforts on the QTI, Mayaca Historical Center, our auditing for our annual audit. We pay out of there also our indirect cost consultant as well. We provide some support for this fair sponsorships, 4th of July fireworks, and some trash pickup for the July 4th and Labor Day events that happen downtown, as well as we have a City of Bradenton interlocal agreement with the parking garage and so forth that also gets paid out of there. Human Resources has a program, well, the county has a program for tuition reimbursement that's also in this budget. And then fire control, that's a payment that we made on an annual basis. Some rents and leases for portalets and things like that that we do for functions that happen during the holidays and things like that. Employee orientation costs, memberships and subscriptions. These are more things that we gotta have in order to operate, like the Florida Association of Counties partnerships and things like that. Those go inside there. And then with that said, we going back into the other community services. This one is, miscellaneous program. I'm sorry, all my sheets are all. With the miscellaneous programs, we have 4 programs. These are the MPO. We fund a portion through a contribution that every year we kind of like reconcile with the MPO and we readjust this funding. It was brought to the board and it was approved by the board last year. The Palm Bear, as we levy for on their behalf, their assessed values, the property tax for their MSTU. This is the total dollar amount, $83,000 for this year's. Lumboki agreement. This one is at $350,000, but this one is based on the population and on the changes on the tourist development tax because they receive of the beach penny, they receive a percentage of that. This year, with the realignment of the tourist development tax and the increase that we got from the Department of Revenue, that number will increase to $550. So in the proposed version, you will see that increase. The juvenile detention program, it's one that Lee DiPaolo runs under his department at $843,000. And since we're talking about Mr. DiPaolo, he's going to be talking about his other community services programs and the children's services program. And with you, Director of Community and Veteran Services, Lee DiPaolo.
Thanks, Sheila. Can we go back to the other slide before we go to, there we go, and then we'll go to Children's Services after that. So a few programs to talk quickly with you about. Manatee Community Foundation, Rabonia Community Center, and Keep America Beautiful, so a total of $175,000 between the three, fall under our adult services area. We'll be coming forward during either the July or August meeting and break those down specifically for you and what those programs mean. The hardship assistance, this is not an active program, but it's a placeholder in case we need to go down the path. It can be active. It's for a special assessment that residents are responsible for who might not be able to afford it, such as utility or sewer. So we hold that in the event that we activate that program. Jumping down to medical examiner transport, agreement with Bursota to transport bodies to the morgue. The medical examiner is for the facility in our county. Fee assistance is ambulance hardship, help with cost of ambulance bills. Our office conducts the application process. Eligible cemeteries fund for repair, headstones, and an abandoned cemetery and those sorts of things. And finally, eligible burials cremation assistance for unclaimed bodies or families seeking assistance. This office conducts the application process. Our office does. So those are our programs. The other three, there's three up there that aren't, but I do have information on those. If you have any questions, go ahead, Chair.
Hey, Colonel, I have a quick question. The medical examiner, a little over 2 million, you said it was for our facility here. Does that go, any of those funds go to the facility in Sarasota?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Van Ossenbridge.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Lee, eligible cemeteries, $5,000 for headstone replacement, repair, that sort of thing. And then there is an abandoned cemetery. I think it's actually in the city of Bradenton. Does that sound right? The one abandoned cemetery. They had reached out a year or so ago, and his historical black cemetery, I'm pretty sure it's right on MLK actually. I connected them with your predecessor, and I never heard anything back, which is usually a good sign. But could you look into that and just find out what we did for them? I think the mayor was gonna try and get some landscaping and some cleanup done on the property, but they had bigger concerns than just landscaping. We're gonna try to work together with the city. Would you mind just following up and find out what was done there and if everybody's happy? And then eligible burials, what are we paying for a burial? Because I know there was a limit set, and at a social setting, I was given an earful about what that limit was a while back.
I'll
I'm
get you
wondering
the
if it's
exact amount
adjusted or
because
not.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's the overall program, cremation assistance for unclaimed bodies or families that are seeking assistance. So I'll get you the actual what we pay.
Okay, thank you.
It won't take me very long to get that. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Could I make a quick clarification on the medical examiner? So we do out of that fund, we fund the administrative portion of the medical examiner is handled in Sarasota County, and that was done several years ago. And so we do pay for that. However, all of the autopsies for Manatee County are done here in Manatee County at our facility. So just to be clear, it's just the administrative cost goes to Sarasota. They do all of their administration is centralized there for DeSoto, Manatee, and Sarasota.
Thanks, Courtney, for your clarification. Next slide, please. So the children's program, pretty amazing process. My first time going through this. The application process is complete at this point in time. The funding recommendation you see up there for $17,691,435 is a projected budget for this year. The recommendation for this will be going forward to the board in the July or August meetings. And the overall amount of time that our Children's Services Advisory Board spends on this is amazing. I mean, their due diligence. So 26.5 in-person meeting hours over the course of 14 meetings to review, discuss, provide investment recommendations for 61 programs overall. Each application that they see takes an average of 1 to 1.5 hours to review. So dedicated board, and we'll be able to bring that information to you overall to how we support the abused, neglected, or economically disadvantaged children. And Commissioner Ballard is intimately involved in that entire process. Subject to your questions, that completes my briefing.
Any questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Jody Fisk, if you would like to come down and for the healthcare public safety program, please.
Good morning, Jody Fisk, Public Safety. So these are the current agreements that we already house in public safety with the funding that goes to the programs you see listed here. The Manatee Memorial Indigent Care, I believe that's going to be coming before you all in July or August as well, for how we're going to be dividing up and getting that for the community-based programs that we are working with. Trying to maintain my rhythm of being as short and sweet as possible in front of everybody. Are there any questions on any of the programs in particular?
Director Fisk?
All right.
No questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Now we move on to our departments. Our first department is property management. I would like to remind everyone that on the bottom left-hand side, the decision unit book that is published on mymanatee.org, it corresponds with the page number if you would like to follow along. Property management consists of 7 programs with a total budget of a little over $34 million. If you can go to the next slide, please, Claudia. As a reminder, column A is your base and continuation change. And those are, since fiscal year 24 adoption, those are changes that the board has already approved via budget amendment, cost of living adjustments, or could also represent some of the various reorganizations that have occurred. It is the intention today for the directors to come here and discuss their fiscal year 25 recommended budget, but also touch on column B, their operating expense changes. And then we will flip over to their decision unit summary book where they will discuss their funded and unfunded desired decision units. So at this time, I would like to present Carrie Knight, Director of Property Management.
All right. I will try to be as fast as Jody, but I doubt that's going to happen. So, column B for us is extremely simple. There are mainly 2 things. It's uniforms and operational expenses. One of our biggest operational expense increases is the transition of all of our projects to eBuilder, which will be done by the end of this year. So we're knee-deep in doing all the things that we need to do that and move it over. So any questions on the column B?
Any questions? Yeah, that's full. Okay.
I'll give them a moment to. Okay. So the first request is in building management, and there's one there that is actually going to be coming off. But I'll start with priority 1. That one is, we've got 1 superintendent and 1 senior building trades worker. One of the confusing things here is sometimes this might look like it's just the library, but it's actually the Lakewood Ranch Library, all of Premier, EMS 15, 17, and Mayaca. So these people travel to quite a big area. We do have a vehicle that is on loaner from Public Works Fleet. So this request was to get them a vehicle so that they could travel. As we know that we're doing quite a substantial increase of buildings out at Premier, including the sheriff's substation, eventual parking garage, skate rink. We're getting ready to break ground on the pickleball and the pool facility. So there's quite a bit that's coming. We can continue to use the loaner vehicle and we continue to make do, but this is something that as we start to bring some of these things online, it's really nice to have these people there while the building's being constructed, so they have the intimate knowledge of that. So that's kind of where we're at with that. It's something that's definitely coming. If we can't do it in 25, it's definitely you're gonna see it again in 26, 100%. So, but I understand where you're at with the budget. So the priority number 2, that one is actually for parks, and what they were trying to do is split it between the library. We can't really have someone who's half in a building half a day and half at a park half a day. And then the parks one is also kind of misleading when it says Lakewood Ranch Library. It's actually Premier, Greenbrook, Crane Park, and Mayaca as well. So that park person would be supplementing that and going to all those different programs. So it kind of gives you an idea of where that's at. So those are those 2 unfunded positions that we're hoping that we might be able to find a place for those. As far as property acquisition, everything's funded. There were no other additional requests. And if we can go on to construction services. I'll start with priority number one, which was funded. That is the e-builder. That's going to give you all the visibility that you get from Public Works. You'll be able to track where we're at, what's slipping, what's not slipping, what the baseline was, and it just give you a better history and visibility so that you've come to grow and seen from Public Works, and that will give you the same functionality on the other side of the house for our vertical construction. So once again, we're more than halfway through the implementation of eBuilder, and we'll have all of our major projects online, and then we'll be rolling it out to all the other projects as well. So that one's progressing very well, and we appreciate that. The one position is the person who is constantly inputting the data, and I would say that Public Works has 4. We're going to try to do it with 1 person, so that's kind of where we're at with that. We can, on priority number 2, administrative coordinator position, we can get by without that, so we'd like to remove that request. And then the conceptual design feasibility study funding, we're getting a number of these requests that are more what ifs and what can we do, and we really don't have a business case for a project, but we need to look and do a study to see, can we put this football field on this property? Can we move these electrical lines? How many can we do here? If we do this on this property, what can be done? So that's kind of what this bucket of money was for, was to have a pool of available people to go to do a quick study to see if a project could even be funded, or if it made sense without rather having to do a full blown out project business case with that kind of stuff. So it was more of a kind of a fast track to getting answers for what your conceptuals and wants and needs might be. So survey had no unfunded needs, and we're not expanding anything in survey, so we're fine there. And then R&R. There's a number of these projects that first I'll just go down in order and not necessarily by priority. The administrative building, you know that there's been some leaks, especially when the rain comes from the west. They tend to be around the columns and the beams. The way the building is sealed, it'll need to be resealed every 8 to 10 years. So not only is this plan to reseal the building, but we'll also be looking at seeing if there's some kind of engineering recommendation that might be able to alter the way that sealing is done so that we can get a longer lifespan out of it and we won't be coming back as frequently. So we're going to be looking at that from 2 different directions. The next one on the list is the historical courthouse roof replacement. And it says grant funded, so you really don't have to worry about that one because that one is a hurricane repair. Probably shouldn't necessarily be on the list other than grant funding matching. So very similar to the judicial building that we're replacing the roof on currently. That one is also a hurricane repair. And we will note that per that process, we're changing the way we're putting roofs on buildings. Instead of mechanically attached, we're going to fully adhered, which gets us from the minimum code, I think, was 135 mile an hour wind loads, and that brings us up to 200 mile an hour wind loads. I want to say that on that project, Fiscal did an amazing job working with FEMA going back. We were looking at being de-obligated because the damage wasn't done during Idalia, and FEMA actually reopened Ian and accepted the project into Ian, saving the county $1.7 million. We also asked FEMA if we could do mitigation on that roof, changing the way the roof is attached and taking it 200 mile an hour wind loads, and they did approve that, and the upgrade costs for that roof was only $6,700 on top of the $1.7 million. So we're really looking at other ways of doing resiliency. So that's a project that will be moving forward in the same type. So when we get these hurricanes, we won't have that kind of uplifting of the roof membrane. So the central jail generator replacement is also unfunded, but in reserves. And that one is the backup generator. But as you know, dual redundancy is required for, because there's inmates in there. It's the main central jail building. It covers admin, the kitchen, and it impacts inmates. So that one has not only the bad generator, but the bad automatic transfer switch that's going to be replaced as well. The fencing replacement for multiple parks is unfunded. It's not falling over or unfunctional. It's mere unsightly. So if there's one that can't be funded, I guess that's the one. This one is for Buffalo Creek, the foul lines in the outfield, Braden River, same areas. Palma Sola includes the foul lines, the outfield, and the backstops. And then Blackstone is the foul lines and the outfield. Buffalo Creek, Braden River, and Blackstone recently had their backstops redone. So, and then the irrigation replacement, Lakewood Ranch Park, that one's in reserves. Obviously, you know what's going on there with the well water and on that one. And then the next one is the irrigation replacement for Premier Sport Campus, and that one is actually in design. So if we're not able to fund this one in 2025, we will be shovel-ready given its funding later on, like if it happens in 2026. So being shovel-ready will also give us better posturing for grants, should we find a grant that we can apply to. Usually scores higher on the list. And then also having these listed as at least unfunded projects. If we're not able to get funding for that, does mean it's identified as part of a capital plan, and also helps us score higher on some of these grant applications when we list unfunded projects that they were part of the capital plan but unfunded. So it's all about getting as many points as you can on these grants if we can find something that we can apply to. GT Bray parking lot and curbing. This is for repaving. So as you know, there's a lot of oak trees out there, and there's a lot of issues with the parking lot. So this one is also into reserves for $500,000, and that's mainly a safety question and safety issue out there. And then remediation. Got to get to all my notes. Yeah, this is one that we could probably push off for a little bit, and we'll regroup and come back in 2026. And then the last one is irrigation renovation designs for Blackstone, Buffalo, Palma Sola, and Greenbrook and Braden River Parks. And obviously, you can see the state after this drought. You can see what's happened with a lot of our parks. So that's kind of one of the things that, we want to keep up that level of service and play. And that one is in the funded column, so we appreciate that. So that's for design only, and then we'll be coming next year for the cost for implementing those. Yes,
Got a
Chair.
quick question. On the central jail generator replacement reserves, why isn't that not showing on the sheriff's budget under operational cost? Okay.
Yeah, we own the facility, the sheriff doesn't. We operate it, we own it.
I understand that, but it's still his, okay. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, it should be, okay, I got it.
Okay, and I think that takes us through that one. And then we get to grounds maintenance. So, okay. Unfunded, we have the maintenance barn for Coquina. We have a lot of requests, so obviously it's one of those things where we have to weigh what we need and what we can afford. I think that's also one that we can push off for a little bit. And then the ADA increase was to help with the transition plan, all the identified areas, just to increase that. Obviously, the costs of everything has gone up over the last couple of years. And a lot of we've picked off a lot of the low-hanging fruit as far as ADA upgrades to existing buildings. So now the upgrades are getting to be a little bit more and more expensive as we start to try to do the rest of them. So, and then Alderwood Park, Community Gardens, that actually was approved at the May meeting. So I think that one can come off, actually. Yeah, that one is actually funded. That can be moved out of the unfunded column. And then the ground maintenance tech and custodians. This is part of the OPS positions. We can hire people for 6 months and then they can't come back for a year. So parks, in order to keep up their same level of service, have been using the OPS positions, not occasionally, but they're trying to use them full time. So, and then they've also made their managers full working managers as well, to keep that level of service up. So they're doing everything they can to make sure the parks look great, but now they're getting to the point where they're becoming overwhelmed and they can't keep people on. No one wants to come and work 6 weeks or six months emptying trash and then try to replace that position again, and then they can't come back for a year. So that was the request from the Parks Group. So their hoping is to eventually move those people to a more permanent type position. So King Middle School Park, 2 positions. I think that's another one that we might be able to push off while we do construction and then move forward with that. Parish Park is in reserves, so then we'll be pulling that through as that park finishes phase 1 later this year and then gets started on design for phase 2. So that'd be quite a large park kind of off on its own, so that's good. Ron DeSantis Park was another position that was unfunded. And then Lakewood Ranch Park, that was the other half of the person. So that, I believe that change is going to come out on the next budget with the split between buildings and parks. So that will be all parks. So, and then ground maintenance, various equipment. There are a lot of items for the medians. We got the people, but we didn't get the equipment. So Public Works, again, has been working with us on doing a lot of loaner vehicles. And then also they're doing a fair amount of rentals as well to get water trucks and things that they need. So we'll put together, if we can't get that funded, we'll put together a more comprehensive list and make sure that we come up with a plan for how to move forward on that to make sure that all these medians and work that we're doing, that we continue to maintain it in the best possible way so that the investment doesn't suffer. So, and then beach cleanup, again, those are the OPS positions, same as the one above. Just finding it hard when you can bring somebody on for 6 months and then they can't come back for a year. So just trying to keep the level of service up and of what you've grown to expect. And so that's everything, I think. Is there one more? Yeah, I have the same right here. So, yeah, the park attendants positions, those are for two park maintenance tech positions at Premier. So obviously we've got the restrooms coming, the park, the tent's going to be going up here shortly. We'll be adding a maintenance building. So as we add more and more features out there, more and more time. So that's kind of where the need comes from that as well. So, and the rest was continuations, and that's funded. So,
good? Any questions? Okay.
Sorry, guys. So help me understand this OPS positions situation. Why is it set up this way? Yeah, and I get that, but is that so somebody can work for 6 months and then that specific person cannot come back for another year, or that position cannot be filled again for another year?
I'm sorry, go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, it's the latter. You can move the person into a permanent position, but that position only exists for a certain amount of time. We do this with camp counselors, in summer camp, we do lifeguards, that sort of thing. It's the opposite. The person is gone,
The person has to be
Okay,
gone.
that does.
but we move them into permanent positions all the time.
We can, but there has to be a time lapse. It has to do with our health insurance program. It's a weird rule. It's got to do with Obamacare and some of that stuff. But they
Okay.
have to be removed from, Kate's nodding her head. Kate, you want to come to the microphone and explain better than me?
Thanks,
there's-
thanks, Obama.
This.
It was
Yeah,
confusing.
thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
Can we? How does this work, and how do we fix it?
Great question, and yes, you are correct. It is due to the Affordable Care Act, and also the budget. It's an operating expense, correct, Sheila? So, in order for these employees to stay on in this function, it needs to be an FTE and come out of the budget.
Do OPS employees, are they eligible for county benefits?
They are not.
I didn't think so, okay.
So an OPS employee who needed or wanted to move to full-time, how long would they have to be off the payroll before they could move into an FTE position?
They can move into an FTE position by going through the competitive hiring process. They cannot move into another OPS position.
Okay.
Right?
No.
Isn't that correct?
I thought there was, and again, that's not my expertise, Kate, but I thought there had to be a time lapse. I know it's not a year, but there had to be a time lapse from them going from an OPS to a permanent
can
position,
go
but
into
I could be wrong too.
As long as we're offering the benefit eligible position, again, it goes back to the Affordable Care Act.
Okay, thanks.
As you can tell, the OPS positions are really confusing, and
They are
I'm coming up to
confusing.
speed as well.
You get a
But
MOO number, it's weird, you get a MOO number, you get a badge, but you don't get any benefits. But you
Yeah.
can't keep them for years and years and years.
Right.
There's a time period, they either have to move to a permanent position, or we have to relieve them.
With Carrie's department, it was, my understanding is mostly like guys cutting grass, because in the summertime, grass is growing like crazy, and
Right.
that was what his OPS guys were primarily for, I think.
Retirees, people that just wanted something to do. It helps us at the beach, like I said, custodians.
There are also FRS implications, but that's going down another rabbit hole, so.
So if there's somebody who has insurance independent of the job, like let's say there's somebody who has Medicare, if they're retired, something like that, does that change the implication in any way?
Not to my knowledge, it strictly has to do with the Affordable Care Act
Okay,
and what
I
the
was just-
benefits that we offer as an employee of Manatee County.
Understood, thank you.
No problem.
You good? Yep. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Turner.
This may be a question for you, Madam CFO. As we went through the process here, Carrie was kind enough to say on some of the items that could be moved, or in fact, it's actually funded. When could we get a list of, as we sharpen our pencil here, because it's going to be important, maybe a set of absolute priorities so that I can understand where we stand on some of the requests. If it is something that can be moved, or it is actually funded, can we get those items kind of flagged?
So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I also wanted to mention, whenever you saw one of the requests with a comment of reserves, it means that the administrator has decided to fund it as a set-aside reserves, because there's other implications. There's a program that has to be explained. There's a cost that needs to be evaluated, quotes, and so forth. So they will come back with that to the board and say, hey, now I'm ready for this repair or this replacement or whatever. Then it's going to cost this. Can I pull it out of my reserve for set aside? And then you'll say yes, and then we'll pull it. It's Not that it's totally unfunded, it's just it requires a little bit of more delving into, at the time, the final cost quoted or bid or whatever it's gonna be for.
So Kerry would have the ability to prioritize out of his reserves.
Yes, so in his
Okay.
R&R, he does have, and he does present a priority list of all his R&R for the year, and you see those placed in the reserve. So if you saw a reserve, it means it met his priority list from 1 to 10 or from 1 to 5 for what he wanted for that year. If he did not get it for this year, it goes into a recurring R&R that he has set aside. This year is $2 million, only because last year was $3 million, and he was able to do all of it. He got roof replaced in different locations. He got backstops done. He got, all sorts of different things. So those are, even though they say unfunded, it's because they're funded in a different manner.
Okay, so we've got it in reserves, and then we can prioritize.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that what I'm, okay. Thank you.
He also has in the special set-asides, there's a big ask for chiller replacements, so the administrator allowed him to set a define. Those are fairly large and costly, and as we see, there's some need over at the courthouse as well. So he has an $8 million set aside for chillers and $2 million for generators. As we get close to the we're already in hurricane season, he can pull out of there once we start the new year, and if there is a need for rush generators to be purchased, some of them are quite large, some of them are just to enhance the housing of those to help in storm events in facilities. So as you see, he does have a large R&R set aside because we understand that all of our facilities need, at a given point, some sort of maintenance or replacement of some sort.
Is the general feeling that we're a little bit behind on maintenance?
I wouldn't say behind on maintenance. I think we have to modernize our maintenance process. And one of the things that we're currently looking at is what Public Works is already using. And because they have the licensing, it's easier for us to implement, but that's City Works, so that we can build in the preventative and routine maintenance schedules into a work order system. We can have all of our assets barcoded, and then we can actually track and forecast, know when the piece of equipment was purchased. We know the expected life expectancy, and we can do a better job forecasting some of these things coming forward, so that we can do a 5-10 year budget forecast for replacement. We can set what our level of service should be, and then it can help us kind of prioritize and make us more efficient with all of these asks for people, so that we know, are these people really allocated 70? It's typically 70% for routine and preventative maintenance and 30% for unexpected repairs or service requests. But we don't really have that data with the system that we have now. So, are we keeping our people busy? Should we be reallocating headcount? Are we doing resource leveling, that kind of thing? So that's something that we're working toward. It will be a 2-year process to fully implement that type of system on this side of the house as well. So, but that's definitely something we're working toward. And then also some of these other things that are funded in reserves. We're definitely, you heard about the roof, that we've changed the way we're installing roofs. It's the same membrane, it's the same underlayment, it's just the way we're gluing it down, and all of a sudden we get another 60-mile-an-hour wind loads out of it, so that we don't have to come back after these storms and do repairs. We get a little bit more life expectancy. But then we're also going to be looking at these generators and things like the sheriff. We're responsible for that. The sheriff's not allowed to own property. We have to own the property, so we have to maintain it. But should a CDBG, MIT, something that's for hardening of critical facilities for first responders or that kind of thing comes open, we'll be able to start supplementing some of these costs with some of these grants that we're going to start going after pretty hard. So.
Okay, thank you. So we're improving the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, also don't want the board to think we're not funding ADA. The board does fund us $100,000 a year. Also gives us another $200,000 towards our transitional plan. This is just, and when Carrie and/or Carmine sees a need, we do come to Sheila. That's why you have those budget amendments almost every month on the board's agenda, because we find these needs and Sheila finds the money. So I don't want the board to think we're not funding ADA. This is just an additional request when we get those big needs.
Yeah. And a prime example of that is the kiosk downstairs for signing in for the commission meetings. We do those on the fly.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Carrie. Our next department is Development Services with 7 programs and a total fiscal year 25 recommended budget of $35 million. I would like to make a quick comment about the base and continuation change of almost, gosh, can't even read that. Thanks, $10 million. In fiscal year 24, economic development was reorganized from county administration to development services, which the board approved. This represents project woodworking and other initiatives that was approved and represents that increase. I will turn it over to Nicole Knapp, our Director of Development Services.
Good morning, Commissioners. As Danielle said, Nicole Knapp, Director of Development Services. So this is my first budget presentation, so for the last week or so, I've thought about how I would like to start this presentation. And so how we look at our situations define how we walk through them. So basically, our mindset matters. So today I'm here in front of you because I get to make this presentation, not because I have to. Refraining my thoughts from an obligation to an opportunity. So this is my opportunity to remind you of all the great things that Development Services has done in the last year. So I'm going to take 30 seconds to do that before I get into our operating budget changes and our one decision unit request. As Danielle said, Development Services consists of 7 programs, and we're supported by 180 team members, which further breaks down into 15 different divisional discipline areas. And I just want to take 30 seconds to point out some of the highlights. In the last year, Business Services, that's one of our divisions, they've worked to improve our business process efficiencies, not only for our staff, but for our customers. And that was through the completion of over 60 improvement changes and upgrades to varying complexity, different processes we have. Between our 2 lobbies that we have walk-in lobbies. One is for our building division and one is for our planning and zoning. They have responded to our residents and our development community with over 5,000 walk-ins, 45,000 emails, and 80,000 calls. And then we have different varying levels of development review staff that touch all of those planning applications that come before you a couple times a month. And they've processed 1,000 of those, with each of those reviewers carrying between 20 to 40 cases individually. And then lastly, our building division, they have processed over 50,000 permits of varying types and performed 170,000 inspections, with each of our inspectors carrying 30 inspections a day. And so I just wanted to point out those highlights before I move into the presentation for today. All of those great works that I just mentioned, also where we've not seen a dip in any of our volume or our demand associated with development. And this will be our 2nd year in a row that we come before you with no FTE requests. And instead, we wish to continue to leverage the technology to help make our work lighter and smarter. And so I'll explain that when I get to the decision unit. So first, I'll start with the operating expense. Change in column B. You'll see we're requesting $60,000 that is shared between our 15 different divisions. And the reason for that increase can be kind of summarized into about 2 to 3 different buckets, if you will. The first is due to an increase in the required postage and mailings, mostly for our CRS program and floodplain management, and also for our license contract renewals from our building division. The other category is our staffing level adjustments as a result of the reorganization that Danielle mentioned. They've caused some shortfalls, or in some cases, no monies at all being in certain account keys. Likely things like cell phones and education, training, and memberships. And then lastly, the other little category that affects the $60,000 will be some residual effect changes with the merchant fees, which we believe will be further reduced or completely eliminated with the next budget cycle. And so as I mentioned, while I'm pleased to ask for no additional FTEs, we are requesting one decision unit with a total expenditure of $88,000. That's another desired advancement under that technology umbrella. The on-base system was originally purchased in 2007 at the time and was used exclusively by development services. Since then, the critical business functions expanded to all departments, in addition to outside agencies like supervisor of election, property management, port manatee, MPO, and the clerk's office. Additional software modulars and professional support are required to further the development of on-base, while also providing development assistant, training, budget adherence, and overall productivity of the county. And just to give you a feel for how the on-base system expanded, we have over 600 active users and have had over 400,000 documents that have been imported in the last 18 months. And the system is used for over approximately 30 different unique business process types. Things like your agenda management, processing financial documents for FMD and the clerk, project management and inspection storage for public works, same for utilities, document storage for natural resources. I mean, I could go on, it touches every department. So basically, we need to continue use of the on-base system requires technical and operational upgrades. That's what this $88,000 is for additional software to ensure development of configuration, maintenance, training, proficient use, and maximum efficiencies. So I appreciate continued support, and myself, along with a few team members, are here for if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions of Nicole? No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. That brings us to public safety. Public safety also has 7 programs with a total fiscal year 25 recommended budget of $57 million. I would like to point out, if you look in column A, 3 lines to the top, there was a decrease of around $2.5 million in personnel. That was due to the ALS and BLS salary adjusted to fund the personnel out of the American Rescue Plan. But that has recently run out, and the last few months of the fiscal year, those salaries will be funded out of public safety. And then next year in fiscal year 25, that $2.5 million will be brought back into the budget. I now turn it over to Jody Fisk, our Director of Public Safety.
Hello again. Jody Fisk, Public Safety. I do want to start off by saying thank you. This board has been so incredibly supportive of public safety in the last year. We have seen incredible use of technology within public safety, the drone project, the traffic preemption technology, and our telecommunicators with the use of MD Alley for telehealth for our callers that are calling in. So I do want to thank the board immensely for all of that support. And I do want to move in to our asks. Again, I'm going to try to keep it brief. So our first one, I was like, that one was not mine. So we're going to start with ECC. We are asking for an additional 2 telecommunicators in addition to the 3 that were funded. A couple of things I do want to make sure that I mention. First one is between fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2023, we've seen a 77% increase in our calls to emergency services, and our staffing levels have remained consistent for that duration. All of our calls are answered within 10 seconds of the call coming in. Our population in 2023 was about 441,000, with the population projected this year to be at over 450,000. For fiscal year 2023, our ECC staff answered a total of 276,879 emergency calls. And as of today, our telecommunicators have answered 249,361 calls, with our projected call volume to exceed 284,000 for fiscal year 24. The 2 positions would bring our total positions to 5 in ECC, which would allow us to be more flexible, better staff our peak call hours to prevent us from going into surge. And it's important to note also that they're not just answering the calls, they're also dispatching. They are, for every single action that is taken in ECC, it does require a direct reaction from our telecommunicators. So We are hoping to get the additional 2 positions to allow us to better staff an ECC, especially during those peak hours for our folks.
Can I add one piece too? Because I had to learn a lot, obviously, now overseeing public safety, and Jody's been incredibly patient with me. But there are obviously multiple shifts. And so when you look at 5 positions, that would only cover about, a few shifts. So the 3 funded positions that are already there would cover each of the 3 shifts. But really, by getting the other 2, that would be increasing our staffing level of about 9 per shift to 11 per shift. Again, sort of helping with that spike in call volume since 2020.
Commissioner Van Osbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So learning the proper etiquette here and terminology, I would like to pull the 2 unfunded positions into being funded positions. I would like to, if someone will second that.
I second.
Thank you. And the last time I called 911 was, a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, and all callers were busy. And I was actually doing a town hall, which most of them go better than this. But I was doing a town hall, and someone in the audience went down. Again, most of them go better than this. But I know, right? Yeah. But anyway, so it really looked bad when I was like, well, I'll call 911. And then, it was busy, and some other people tried to call too. But I spoke with Jody and eventually figured out this was the issue, is we just need more telecommunicators. So during peak, particularly during some peak high volume times.
We need them when Kevin puts on a town hall.
And to add a little bit of credit to Jody, to Jody and her staff, they are looking at creative ways to, again, leverage technology, and you'll see that theme throughout this presentation. But there are some really cool, there's some cool technology out there to help screen some of these calls as well. And so, again, as we continue to grow, we're going to keep looking at these enhancements.
I always said I'm not shy. I'll ask for all the stuff and the things, but I eventually will have to ask for people to help use all the new stuff and things. So moving over, we're actually not asking for any additional positions in EMS. We are not asking for any additional staffing in code either. The only other positions we are asking for are an additional 2 lieutenants in beach patrol. We were given 4 positions with the 3 lifeguards and 1 other lieutenant. We are asking for the additional 2 lieutenants. Again, just throw some numbers out there. For fiscal year 23, our beach lifeguards saw roughly 2.2 million people on our beach. That includes Manatee Beach, Coquina Beach, all the way up. There were over 10,000 incidents that were responded to on our beaches, to include over 6,000 medical emergencies, which did require that our lifeguards coordinate with EMS, ECC, our partner stakeholders on the beach. So the 2 additional lieutenants will allow for better span of control and allow for more direct supervision, more direct interaction with folks on the beach. So as people stop and ask questions, is it safe for me to swim here? What do these flags mean? What is all of this stuff? It allows for better coverage, because currently with the lieutenants that we have, if one is up here and one is down here, they are constantly doing this up and down the coastline. So we are asking for the additional lieutenants to assist with the lifeguards on the beach.
Mr. Chair, I have no trouble with the requested lifeguard positions, but I'm not in favor of adding additional management positions. Thank you.
So I do want to note that the lieutenants are also lifeguards. So they will be pulled for rescues. They will be participating in that. That is part of the issue that we have with span of control, where if one of our lieutenants is traveling between towers and somebody needs help, that lieutenant is then pulled from what they're doing to participate in the rescue, where now we have to pull the other lieutenant from the other side of the beach. So it is a management position. However, it is a position that is also a certified lifeguard that is able to participate in those rescues. So it's a force multiplier in the field, and it would allow for some relief for the 2 lieutenants that we do have that are pretty much on staff 24/7. Those guys do not get breaks.
And we can.
What's the difference between pay between a lieutenant and a lifeguard? Or it isn't? 17.
So the lieutenants, they manage the beach lifeguards, so they are the supervisors for the beach lifeguards. So with our org chart, when you see it, we've got our lifeguards, lieutenants, our captain, and then our chief for beach patrol. Our chief is also over aquatics, so he splits his time between the pools and the beaches. The captain does a lot of stuff at the headquarters. They all are also manning towers. A lot of times it's kind of, I liken it to if I'm on the beach and I'm upset with the lifeguard and I say, I want to speak to your supervisor, that's our lieutenants. They will come out and they will address citizen complaints, concerns, or take the pats on the back for the lifeguards. And when somebody says, hey, we want to make sure that this guy gets recognized for what they did.
And I can take it a little step further too, because this is a question I also had. I know we've been in discussions with the board on this. So while the lieutenants, it's a weird name for this. We have a lot of lifeguards that are out of college for the summer and that work. And a lot of them, I mean, they're incredibly intelligent and they're great people. Like, I love the lifeguards. But sometimes they need that extra level of guidance in really hard situations. Like, I think in one incident, we had 3 events in one area at the same time. And just a lifeguard needs a little bit more of the critical thinking skills, someone with a little bit more season and education. So I think lifeguard is really, it's an interesting term for it, but really it's that senior level person that's been there that knows what to do if a lieutenant, if a lifeguard needs
There are
assistance.
decision makers in the field for us.
Okay. Understood. Pressing forward.
And that was it. For the aquatics, I believe that we had actually discussed that ahead of time, and because John Marble has closed, aquatics has been incredibly flexible and has actually moved staff around, so we can go ahead and pull that one. We're not going to move forward with those requests. So it is just the 2 telecommunicators and the 2 beach lieutenants. Which one? No. There was a change for code enforcement. There was a change in the operating expense for the additional, we did get additional staff on, but we were not requesting additional staff this year. So that covered their vehicle and the new positions that were filled this year.
So let me provide some clarification here. So we did request 2 positions. These are the positions, but they were recommended for funding. The board still needs to fund them. They could pull them if they don't want to fund them, just to be clear. So there are 2 positions. That comes with obviously extra work, more territories, getting boots on the ground. As you all know, I mean, code enforcement is in high demand. There's no shortage of it. I don't know if you want to talk to the 2 positions that you've requested with the vehicles.
Yeah, well, each code enforcement officer has a full-time take-home vehicle. They are on call for response force if we need them, and then obviously we break up the zones within the county for them to do their regular blue skies duties, and then we pull them for damage assessments and hurricanes.
Any questions on code enforcement? All right, press forward.
Like I said, for the aquatics, we're not moving forward with those.
Excuse me, you have unfunded, you said you're not requesting the unfunded positions?
No, John Marble, it's not open, so anybody that was there is already reallocated to different areas. And then for that head lifeguard position, we're holding off on that for right now.
Okay, thank you.
Saying you're welcome feels weird, but. Are there any other questions?
Any other questions, Director Fisk? Seeing none, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Our Human Resources Department consists of 2 programs, the Human Resources Services and our Employee Health Benefits, with a total recommended fiscal year 25 budget of $73 million. I invite Kate Barnett, our Human Resources Director, to the podium.
Good morning, Chair, County Commissioners, County Attorney, and County Administrator. Thank you so much for your time. As you know, the HR department is the heart of our organization, dedicated to fostering a positive and productive workplace. We are delighted to remind you that we are in the midst of an exciting phase of centralization of rebuilding and rebranding with a renewed focus on innovation, employee engagement, and organizational excellence. As presented, we do have 2 programs, our first being our Employee Health Benefits Program. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Sheila and Haley and Greta and Angie for their dedication to the 506 Fund. We are very proud of this fund, and it benefits all of our employees. In FY25, we want to align the budget to actuals, increasing claims expense for an amount of $3 million. We do cover approximately 7,850 covered lives, covering the claims for not only the Board of County Commissioners, but our tax collector, Manatee County Sheriff's Office, property appraiser, clerks, and Manatee Housing Authority. A top priority is wellness initiatives to include diabetes and nutrition support, which will help mitigate those claims. Our operating expenses for our other program, HR Services, did increase to include a board-approved contract with Secure HR, and it is with their participation that we have begun to rebrand the HR department, which is driven by a vision to enhance our services, streamline processes, and support our most valuable assets, our employees. I can't speak highly enough about our division managers. And their teams they lead. Each has led significant projects of improvement for Manatee County government. Paula Roberson, our compensation manager, has dedicated hours to complete an evergreen compensation study to solidify Manatee County government as the employer of choice. Our benefits manager, Billy Joel Holsworth, is reviewing and identifying duplication in our contracts to include a recent cost savings of $35,000 annually to eliminate our Manatee Your Choice website hosting contract. And a big thank you to our IT team for their expertise and ability to host that important website. Chris Kopp, our workforce planning manager, recently led NeoGov Learn implementation, which not only trains our workforce, but also reduces the high administrative costs of tracking licenses and certifications. Zach Ribble, our employee relations manager, and Scott Sharp, our employee relations specialist, have leveraged their experience to handle as many investigations in-house without the support of and utilization of outside counsel. And lastly, Danielle Riley, who in her short time is leading an initiative to reduce costs of our pre-employment checks to reduce the cost in implementing our live scan fingerprint technology. Our goal is to automate as many processes and policies as we can, as mentioned, NeoGov Learn, but also to our full comprehensive HRIS systems upgrade to improve the efficiency and data management of our organization. We also want to invest in employee development, as mentioned, tuition reimbursement, which many employees benefit from. Also, our internship program, which last year, I'm proud to say that actually today, we hired an intern from last year to a certified full-time employee in natural resources, Mr. Will Weiss. We are also investing in our leadership development programs to expand them to offer more cohorts, identifying current and future leaders through our supervisory and emerging leadership programs, which result in numerous projects implemented throughout the county. 8 of 10, a recent project was the Sun Safety Team. 8 of 10 sunscreen stations has been implemented in our parks and beaches. In closing, the HR department is committed to becoming a strategic partner within the organization, driving change and fostering a culture of excellence. As we rebuild and rebrand, we invite all employees, leadership, and commissioners to engage with us, provide feedback, and participate in our initiatives. We are not asking for any new positions. Instead, we are focusing on the talented HR staff and building a team with our primary focus on improving the overall employee experience from recruitment to retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate, how many total employees as of today do we have?
We have approximately 2,300.
2,300? All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions of
Any other
HR?
questions?
See none? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kate. That brings us to our final department of today, Public Works, with 7 programs and a total fiscal year 25 recommended budget of $93 million. Chad Butzko, Director of Public Works.
Insurance program in there, though. I have to wear my glasses today because I do have all my notes written down, and we will move along. And the nice little table that we have here is a reminder. One of the major differences, if I see myself, is it would appear that we're almost lower than we are last year, or close, but 2024, we had a lot of one-time money that was brought into our budget initially, so it's not being requested a second time in there. There were special projects, but new pieces of equipment or other things. Those are the types of things. And also, 2024 got a little bit inflated because we've had to pull a few budget amendments forward this year to keep going. So, I mean, those are the main reasons we've had some differences in our year over year. 2501, so Public Works is broken up and we got the 7 programs. The first one is mostly almost an overhead, but it's the roadway and right-of-way maintenance area. It focuses on a single proposed to be funded contract, and it's one you'll practically see every year for us. It's how we grow our budget. Within the capital improvement program, we show the costs of operating costs of new projects, but this will also take care of for the contracted right-of-way mowing and maintenance contracts. When you rebid things, everything goes up in cost. And as development comes through or other ways, other improvements that get done out there, new projects have to get added that have to get taken care of. An example of a difference is the neighborhood improves a right-of-way along Wright Road. I need to mow and maintain that. But we build 44th, that's built into the budget. My budget gets increased to take care of one of those things. That's a capital project for Public Works. Moving on to program 2502 is project management. A piece of project management also includes the inspection division. Within that, all 3 of these requests for positions were a planned program enhancement of right-of-way protection, right-of-way deconfliction. It was a system that we were dreaming on. We were working currently with IT right now, doing a discovery project, trying to find out, is there a software out there that helps us consume all the different pieces of information we have out there for people that are working within our right-of-ways to have a better control. The infamous thing is the guy that's out directionally drilling everywhere and hitting everything in sight and is here one day and gone tomorrow. So this was focused on trying to stand that up and kind of time that together. Through the IT process, I found out that this is a much bigger animal than what it originally was. Our software selection, solution, discovery process isn't moving anywhere near as fast. This idea of just getting that extra body to provide more boots on the ground, one, to start with, fits where we're at very well. Normally, I would fight for any of the extra bodies, but I just don't have the tool there to put them and make the best use of it. It's something I do anticipate to come back in the near future once we do have that technology solution planned out. 2503, all things traffic. Everybody loves traffic, or everything that's in there. We have a number of requests, and a lot of times this will come between either the traffic engineering side, where you see Vishal, or traffic operations and Aaron on where we're at here. So I got to take a peek. So I'll work top to bottom and say where we're talking about. So a recommended funding, it looks like a big number of $1 million. So on the electrical side of traffic operations, that division is split up into essentially 2 sides. People that play with electricity, street lights, and traffic signals, and people that don't. So the pavement markings and signs is how that division is working here. So I really tout that idea. It looks like a nibble to cut or something. We are trying to shift just the general philosophy of how we take care of street light maintenance. We're in the process of wanting to stop building streetlights even when we build new roads that require our maintenance. We're in the transitional period where FPL has opened up some newer programs where we can, from the beginning, even with new construction in subdivisions and on capital improvement projects, that FPL lights get put in the first place, and it's their responsibility for maintenance in the first place. What I'd like to point out is with this transition, and it allows us to transition that, sometimes it's even possible to hire FPL to do your streetlight maintenance. But what do we do? So the big gain for the county is I'm able to reshift the staff that normally would work on the streetlights and have them focus on the traffic signals. And there is no shortage of growth there. In the last 4 years, there have been over 40 traffic signals added to the system, plus those 7 pedestrian safety signals that you see along Cortez Hawks. They have as much maintenance and complex technology as the traffic signals do. So at that current growth, I've never totally done it, but my FTE equivalent of taking care of a signal is somewhere between, never done it exactly, but that 20 and 30 traffic signals. For each time you add that, you need the equivalent of another FTE to be able to deal with that. So with this transition, with contracting streetlight maintenance, it's allowing us to stay paused, stay status quo for several years here on traffic signal maintenance. And we expect that growth to be in the at least 15 traffic signals a year annually going forward. Streetlight projects, a minor item there, that is meant to take care of a few systems that are accidentally not county standard things and just replace them and bring them back up to county standards, or fill them in if there's a section of roadway. There's a Masters Avenue thing out there, or a Town Center Parkway is where those 2 items are at. Speed management. So this is, if anybody was thinking this is a great place to cut, this is that funding that's allowed things to go in quickly. We have a couple of primary examples of what we did. We did what we did out on El Conquistador Parkway with that impromptu roundabout. We have a roundabout coming at 51st Street West and 21st Avenue. I mean, these are items that we don't need to go out and hire a design engineer. We can design it in-house. We don't have to go move the perimeter curb. We make them fit to the area, but we still need to hire a contractor to either pave the asphalt, maybe add a concrete curb in the middle. These are also the types of things where we can shrink a road just at a crosswalk and make that chicane, or that make the road feel narrow in certain spots. There's various things we want in our toolbox, and that's where this funding comes in. You get that speeding request along a thoroughfare that has lots of driveways. What can we do? We need the funds to be able to put the things in the toolbox to be able to react to it. Light up Manatee, this thing is set up to be over in the reserves. I offer a comment to say, because of the pace at which FPL is struggling to keep up, that reserves was set up to make the rest of the county feel good, because Light Up Manatee was going to take care of districts 3, 4, and 2. So that was, this extra funding was to shed more light, literally, on districts 1 and 5. I think that could get delayed a year, honestly, because of the speed at which FPL is not working on districts 2, 4, and 3 at the moment. But it's just a set aside in the reserves. Not likely that I would probably pull that forward unless I was told to do so. The personnel that we're talking about here in the traffic operations world, they have a warehouse with the gizmos and parts that keep the signals going. That goes everything from computer switches, fiber optics lines, controllers, a lot of things with serial numbers, warranties, and certifications to know that they've been programmed properly before we take them out and put them into service. We have the software that tracks all this stuff, but we kind of use a frontline worker to maintain the warehouse. This is just asking us to have somebody full-time to be able to deal with that and keep us in better shape. Also allows you to make sure you have your stuff on hand because of reorder point, and making sure you have access to the things you need. New energy, those are also for the same types of things. That's almost an annual ask. That's just one of those things where a development will be building lights that we don't have built into the CIP, so we ask for that cost to be added to our annual budget for paying the power bills. CCTV trailers. It was a new option. It was a technology that we almost didn't even know about. We were curious about them because we get many requests that say, I have this problem here, but it's not on a thoroughfare, and I don't have the cameras to immediately watch it. So these are the ideas. You could quickly drag a trailer out that's more like a message board, a light tower, or something about that size. We can put it on a location during these hours. This is what's happening or something, so I don't have to sit staff outside all day long. It was a concept. It is a nicety of an improvement. Probably has a lot of other versatility, but that would be how we're doing it. If there's a signal or a pedestrian problem at a certain time of day, we're allowed to, it sets up, it gives me a IP address, and we can watch the video remotely for a short period of time, come retrieve it, and move on to the next site that we need to deal with. Also, if you put up a interim traffic condition, whether it's a new stop sign, a new crosswalk, or something, you want to just see how it's doing, and it allows you that remote monitoring point of view. So if I put a request in, or we put in there, the one contracted pavement markings. So pavement markings around here, we've really tried over the last year to focus at least on the specific pavements as you approach intersections. So if you've seen what our team has done, it's hard to tell because you drive so many state roads, but on the county roads, it's that area where the intersections will widen out and there's left turn lanes and right turn lanes. That's really where we've been trying to focus, because that's where the lane lines are really important to keep the guy next to you from saying hi and scraping mirrors or feeling like you're in NASCAR. But it just can't be kept up entirely, so entirely in-house. Pavement striping is very difficult to be done. You need low wind, you need low traffic, and you also need dry pavement. So having that extra contract money is something we really feel like would take our program to another step. Also, it allows us to cut that release order such that during typically your winter time is when you make hay with pavement striping, because it is dry, a little bit lower wind, and even can do it overnight on the busier roads and deal with that. So if I had a pledge of something I'd like to have, I'd like to see that one. And our last one that was listed there, roadway lighting, LED conversion. We turned this stuff in January. We feel we've got this one worked out through other means, so we're just fine. We're just fine. I got to move up, pick up the pace. Everybody wants to go to lunch. Infrastructure engineering, a new staff person. This is specifically in our structures division. So believe it or not, we have a couple of guys, another Big Ten guy, he's from Purdue, takes care of that. But this is a field guy for them to be able to do much more field inspections after major rain events. And we're bringing in that inventory and assessment of seawalls as well, trying to, from the structural assessment point of view, a combination between property management and public works on the structural assessment of that. So that's why we were feeling like, believe it or not, we got 140 qualifying bridges, things that are bridge-like but aren't 20 feet long, 185 of those, and over 50 sidewalk bridges, believe it or not, that we keep track of annually. I got to stay on that list. We also do, every year in coordination with utilities, they have a lot of minor lift stations. We do rehabs of those. This is just adding some survey equipment for us. We can do our own as-builting, and it has an ROI of just 1.5 years to bring that one forward. I think that's just a really great idea. And on the stormwater engineering side, every time we think about doing something, and sometimes you apply for a grant, you either need a quick survey, a quick LiDAR, a quick drone flight, or something that depends on what it is that we want to do. That's what this nominal amount of funding is, to help them be better prepared and react quicker. I think fleet we can cruise through. But fleet services this year is not requesting staff. We added a number of staff in the previous 2 years. Fleet will be a little bit reactionary depending on how the growth of the county goes. So When you're getting new people in other divisions, that usually means they're bringing on equipment, and this year, we're not seeing a heavy growth in that, so fleet's not anticipating staffing growth. Infamous stormwater, 2507. So stormwater doesn't have a list of significant requests, and somehow I have this tacked in here. There's a number of things. One of the things we're dealt with is we know we have a funding issue with stormwater, so we didn't look at things very aggressively. We have some items on the side. We know there are some additional water management studies that need to be done. We know we have some flood basin studies that need to be done. There's several other things that could be dealt with on an annual basis. I really think that we have the opportunities, but they're really focused on bringing stormwater as an entire program to be balanced from a what's the funding level. And I think we have some ongoing discussions to go forward in the next few months, and then these list of things will be discussed when we have some clarity on where that's going in the future. And I had one note back here in transit, and I'm already on that page, 2508, wrapping up. So 3 on the desired, transit attendance. That's not a sexy thing, but we finally got some good data, believe it or not, when we wrote this. We were talking about the idea of how hard is it to know where we clean a bus stop every day. Mainly emptying the trash is how you know how busy a bus stop is. You can go that and correlate it back to your busyness on the ridership data, believe it or not. So they weren't in the computer system. We do have them in the City Works for the last 2.5 months. I finally got some good data. Probably to maintain to the level that we want, we do need some more attendance in there, but it's the first time we've noticed this. We haven't reviewed it long enough to say, are there any other efficiencies? Are there other crews in the county that can help us? Are they close to other facilities where we have county people? So it's one of those, it's a known need, but we haven't, I'm comfortable to say we need to do more analysis before we scream for more people, but it's something that's out there. That second one that's on the screen here, it's a very specific one. It's one that I will make a note that I would say I would request that that is something that is allowed to be placed in reserves. It is for a grant. It's the enhancement of the service on Cortez Road to go from 60 minutes to 30-minute service. We've signed a grant with FDOT to pay for the first 3 years of 50% of the increased operating expenses. Why wouldn't I scream for it and say we need it right now? Is I can't hire the successfully and consistently the available transit operators that I got right now. If for some reason I can get to the point where I've only got 1 or 2 vacancies for an appreciable period of time, because while I've signed this grant, I haven't promised the state any day we could deliver that service because we just don't have the operators to do it. We get to that point, it would be a thing I'd like to bring forward as a budget amendment to say we are stable, we've filled the positions we got, we do need to expand. And kind of goes the same way. The last one there was the new transit manager taking an assessment, trying to understand how hard it is for him to complete schedules with standard workman's comp, FMLA, sick, and vacation issues. But we have been so inconsistently full. I do feel it's a little bit early to be saying the extra board is something that you need for additional staff. So I'm perfectly comfortable not moving forward with that. Like I say, just the one to be considered for placement in reserves for bringing forward if we are able to hire appropriately. I just approved while I was sitting back there three positions to offer for transit operators, but unfortunately that would still leave me probably 14 vacancies still. Questions?
For Chad? Very good? No. Oh, sorry, Rick.
Hey, Chad, real quick. I may have missed it, but the software for project management, is that in the budget?
What I was speaking for the enhancement of why I didn't feel like I needed those extra inspectors? Or
Yeah, but you were talking about an enhancement that you need in order to create efficiencies, but I don't know if that software is in the budget.
It is not, because it was a much more, let's just call it complicated search or specification. We haven't found the right solution for what I'm talking about, is that right-of-way deconfliction software. That is something that I'm continuing to look for, and that would probably, hopefully, be in next year's budget, is something that I'm ready to move.
Okay then. And I'm with you. District 1, District 5 light up did not have the same needs as the other districts, in my opinion. So if that ended up being pushed, I would be in favor of that.
We are considering piece by piece certain things, and some of them have been some of our lesser used thoroughfares in those two districts. Quietly on the side, Golf Course Road got done.
Right.
It just got done in the last month, but it's not a ton that we're not focusing in districts 1 and 5.
Right.
Our focus is in
It's
the,
newer communities, less crime, so I understand.
I know the former commissioner wanted to see something on Old Tampa, and I don't know if that's been performed yet.
that's on the FPL side, so it's a little lower on the list. The Golf Course Road was pre-co. They were able to get to it quicker.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Chad. That concludes our department decision unit summary, with the exception of utilities, who will be here on Wednesday to discuss their budget and their desired decision units.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle, for being the moderator for today. Like she said, this concludes all the department's budgets. I want to remind you, well, this was supposed to be the whole day, but we're so efficient that we just brought it into the morning. So I saves us for the afternoon. But tomorrow, we re-engage tomorrow on the capital improvement plan. This one will be an entire day of looking at the funding sources that are funding and all the initiatives of these projects that are in the CAP. And then in the afternoon, we will delve a little bit more into all those projects that are upcoming and featured in the CAP. At this point, would like to close the session. Any questions, commissioners, if you want to flag anything or discuss anything further?
Before we close, are there any questions of Madam CFO? Seeing none, I'll open it up for public comment. Seeing no one come forward, I'll go ahead and close public comment, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.